The challenges of maintaining military equipment and infrastructure in the U.S. Army. The United States Army is the world's largest and most powerful land-based military force. With over 1 million active duty personnel and reserves combined, the Army is responsible for maintaining military readiness on various fronts worldwide at all times. The mission of the Army is to protect the United States from all enemies, and this requires a high level of preparedness and ability to respond to any type of threat a military force may face. To meet these high standards of military readiness, the Army must maintain a vast inventory of equipment and infrastructure. This equipment includes tanks, helicopters, transport vehicles, communication systems, and weapons. Infrastructure includes structures such as buildings, barracks, and roads, as well as training facilities, hospitals, and airports. To maintain military readiness, the Army must be able to repair, replace, or upgrade its equipment and infrastructure quickly and efficiently. This requires an enormous amount of resources, including personnel, funding, and specialized expertise. However, there are significant challenges in keeping the Army's equipment and infrastructure in a state of readiness. One of the main challenges facing the Army is the large number of equipment and infrastructure components that must be maintained. This requires a robust and complex supply chain, backed up by specialized staff with expertise in the many different components and systems involved. Despite this, there is still a considerable risk of equipment failure or breakdown due to a lack of training, experience, and resources. Another challenge is the cost of maintaining equipment and infrastructure. Repairing or replacing large pieces of equipment such as tanks and helicopters can be enormously expensive. The Army must continually balance the cost of maintaining equipment versus the cost of replacing it, or even phasing it out. In some cases, the continual need for maintenance and repair can become too costly, forcing the military to retire certain pieces of equipment prematurely. Perhaps the most significant challenge facing the U.S. Army is the need to maintain the high level of readiness required for global operations, while also preparing for any unexpected threats that may arise. This is a difficult task, given the many different potential threats and the competing demands on Army resources. For example, the Army must be prepared to deal with a sudden outbreak of conflict, while also maintaining a high level of presence in hotspots around the world. Another challenge is the impact of climate change on the Army's equipment and infrastructure. Changing weather patterns, increased intensity of storms, and rising sea levels can all create significant difficulties for the Army. This includes damage to equipment and facilities due to flooding, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. As a result, the Army must continually evaluate and adjust its strategies and resources to minimize the risks and consequences of climate change. Despite these challenges, the U.S. Army remains one of the most powerful and effective military forces in the world. It continues to invest heavily in technology and modernization to keep pace with evolving threats and maintain its readiness. In addition, the Army invests in new approaches to equipment and infrastructure maintenance, such as predictive maintenance and digital optimization, to maximize efficiency and reduce costs. In conclusion, the challenges of maintaining military equipment and infrastructure in the U.S. Army are significant and ongoing. The Army must balance the need to maintain a high level of readiness with the practical challenges of cost and resource allocation. In this context, it is essential for military leaders and policymakers to remain vigilant and committed to finding new approaches and solutions to keep the U.S. Army prepared and ready to meet any challenge that may arise.